Alright. Today we are watch the messed up mythology of Psyche, goddess of the soul by John Solo.
Boobs, 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 boobs.
Me swear I say.
For Psyche, it was a little bit of both. If you've ever been in love, then you'd probably agree that that experience changed you. Hopefully.
Did it though? I don't know. I joke me make. I chew my talk. But suppose me I did a good person before. Did it change me?
For the better, potentially for the worse. For Psyche, it was a little bit of both. When I was in 6th grade, I overheard the girl that I had a crush on talking to her friend about me. The friend knew that I had a crush on her and was doing me a solid by gathering some intel.
Killer. You have to respect people like that in the dog. Should I get her some intel so I don't know how to strike. Alright.
But it turns out she didn't need to. Because what my crush said next was so loud, the Titans could hear her down in Tartarus. No, I don't like John. He's ugly, creepy, and gross. Naturally, my tiny 12-year-old heart shattered to pieces in that moment. And when
She corrupt, dog. She corrupt. She could have whispered that, dog. She want everybody to hear, dog. She corrupt. She do that on purpose. Even though I would still have her up, dog. See her up on the road. Probably not, but she corrupt for that.
When I went home from school that day, I looked myself in the mirror, saw what I was working with, and said, God damn it, she's right. The point of this story is that love hurts, and puberty is a bitch. The journey from adolescence to adulthood is painful for everyone, and the same can be said for apotheosis, when a mere mortal like you or me ascends to a higher plane of existence and becomes a god. Now, apotheosis rarely entails hormone changes, voice cracking, or in my case, a lot of bacne, but like puberty, those who experience it endure their own unique brand of suffering, and are often targeted by angry gods. Psyche, the goddess of the soul, is just one example of the apotheosized, and as we go through her story, you might find yourself thinking that it sounds kind of familiar. That's because it's what I like to call the world's first fairy tale. I don't know if that's accurate, I just like to call it that, because all the major story beats also show up in Europe and Asia's most iconic fairy tales. I'm talking Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, and even Baba Yaga. But
Are the beast that a while ago, dog? Oh God, man. Disney really up the dog thing, cause.
Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, and even Baba Yaga. But does Psyche's storybook romance have the same happy ending as those fairy tales? We'll get to that. First, I do want to let you guys know that if you've ever wanted to see the land where these ancient myths take place with your own eyes, then you should know you can still join me on the Messed Up Origins field trip to Greece this May. Flight deadline to drop if you want to join us, and called The Golden Ass. Myth is exclusively found in a Roman novel called The Golden Ass, written by Apuleius around the 2nd century CE. The first time I shared this story with you guys, way back in like 2020, I told you that it was a Greek and Roman myth, and while that is true for most of these stories, the only surviving record of this myth is from that Roman text. With that said, I am going to use the Greek names to refer to everyone but the two main characters, gods like Hera, Demeter, Zeus, and Aphrodite. Once upon a myth, there was a certain city where a king lived with his wife and 3 daughters. All 3 daughters were beautiful, but the youngest, Psyche, was so hot that she was crossing the threshold into goddess territory.
Pause, dog. Anytime you hear them old time story and them start talk about daughter, I'm get worried now, dog, cause them just treat them daughter like animal, dog. Sell off them daughter for 2 cow. Chat, yo. It did rough, dog. It did rough. But then it come like it go like way back. Them just them basically a pimp out them daughter. I say, yeah man, that one look good, that one look good. Me can get 3 ram for that one and 2 bull cow. Alright, I'm play bucket video.
I'm not even kidding. The citizens of their crossing the threshold into goddess territory. I'm not even kidding. The citizens of their kingdom actually spread rumors that Psyche was born from the earth itself in the same way that Aphrodite was born from the sea. Not sure whose balls would have had to get cut off for that to happen though. They even started describing Psyche as the second virginal Aphrodite. But all of this praise and worship didn't actually come with any benefits. The people admired Psyche like they would a statue or a sunset. And no one wants to fuck a sunset. So while her sisters were married off to royal suitors to live happy lives, Psyche was stuck at home with her parents, not a husband in sight. To make matters worse, she had unintentionally earned the ire of Aphrodite herself. Many of the goddess's temples and altars had fallen into disarray as word of Psyche's beauty spread throughout Greece, and the goddess of love knew she had to do something about it. Remember, when the evil queen had to take out her competition in Snow White, she ordered a huntsman to take her out in the woods and cut her heart out. But what Aphrodite had in store for Psyche might actually be worse. The goddess of love, the mother of all MILFs, summoned her son Cupid, the god of desire, and ordered him to shoot Psyche with a golden arrow in order to make her fall in love with a monster. See that the girl is seized with consuming passion for the lowest possible specimen of humanity. For one who, as the victim of Fortuna, has lost status, inheritance, and security. A man so disreputable that nowhere in the world can he find an equal in wretchedness. I wonder if Melania was hit with the same curse. Meanwhile, back in Greece, King Psyche's dad was convinced there had to be a reason that his hot daughter was still single, so he consulted with the Delphic oracle.
Cause she a problem, dog. She a problem, that's why she's still single. But you know, problem. She probably mad for real.
And after she huffed enough fumes to see God, literally, she told him that his daughter was cursed to marry a hideous beast, a winged serpent man that even the gods feared, and that she must be sacrificed to this creature. So that bummed him out pretty hard. But it was the gods' will, so it had to be done. The king, his wife, their daughters, and all of Psyche's worshippers escorted her to the mountain with tears in their eyes. And it was at this point that Psyche hit her breaking point. But not in the way you'd expect. Most people would probably be pretty horrified to be marching off to a marriage with a monster. I know my wife was, but Psyche embraced her doomed destiny. What pissed her off, though, was that everyone around her was weeping uncontrollably. So she called them out, saying she's the one who's getting screwed here. The least that her family could do is keep it together, since this will be the last time she sees their faces and doesn't want to remember them ugly crying. After her followers left her, she waited alone on the rock for a while, until the west wind, known as Zephyrus, gently picked her off the rock and carried her into the valley below, where he set her in front of her new home. Now Psyche couldn't believe what she was seeing. Remember, she is a princess and is used to the finer things in life. But this home was a palace that could only have been constructed by heavenly hands. There were wood ceilings with ivory accents, golden columns, silver walls with intricate carvings depicting grazing animals, and mosaics of precious stones on the floor. Every room that she explored was filled with every treasure that she could imagine, and she noticed that despite the fabulous riches, there wasn't a lock, a chain, or a guard in sight. In fact, the only
Yeah man, she make it in her life, man. She make it in her life. She find him man, well the man find her. She make it in her life, man. She wake up in a big house.
wisp of life that she found in the entire palace was the chorus of disembodied voices that welcomed her to her new home. Now, if you've seen my episode on the messed up origins of Beauty and the Beast, you might recall that Belle goes through an oddly similar experience. The setup is different, with her dad being a merchant who accidentally indebts himself to the Beast, but she still sacrifices herself to pay his debt. And like Psyche, the monster that she was doomed to marry lives
For real. She wake up in a big house to Bell. She wake up in a big house. Yeah. For real, for real. Me so you must say.
Lives in a magical mansion where she's waited on hand and foot by servants and animals. After finishing the dinner that someone had made for her, Psyche went to bed, and it was here that she met her husband for the first time. She couldn't see him in the darkness, and they didn't talk much either, but he was soft to the touch and smelled like cinnamon. So his comforting presence, combined with the sweet loving that he gave her on a nightly basis, had Psyche grateful for her.
Weird. So you tell me, say you wake up in a big house and you don't have to ask no question. You just have to take, well, him not like him treat her bad anyways, but you don't know if a man have no STDs or nothing. You just have every night. Oh God. Alright. I fear her life.
Incredible new life, at least for a little while. One night, after Psyche's mystery man had finished ravishing her, he gave her a warning. The fates had designed something cruel in Psyche's near future, and that if she wants to avoid disaster, then she needs to ignore her sisters when they come looking for her. Initially, Psyche agreed to his terms, but the prospect of seeing her sisters only made her realize how lonely she really was. So the next night, she begged her husband to see them just once more, and he reluctantly agreed. The next day,
Mommy something. When they married, now take him and take her up and carry her go a mansion. When them get married. Come on, me some dog. We'll continue.
Psyche could hear her sister's wails echoing down from the mountaintop. Evidently, they had refused to accept their sister's death and went out looking for her because, at this point, they really do miss her. That all changes once Psyche's chauffeur, Zephyrus, carries them down to her humble abode, because when they see that she's living in the lap of luxury, they can't help being jealous. Now, I'm not gonna pretend that I'm all in
Them, Galia, ready eye. You see, say your sister live good life. Before you're happy for her, if first thing you do a bad mind, dog. But yo, you see why man want her and tell her, say, yo, your sister, them are crosses. Don't go look for them. You see, as our sister, them find her now, sister, she'll live up the life now. Them not even say them happy for her, you know. Then start bad mind her, dog. But then again, me can kind of see, dog. She pretty, she that, but she finally find a man, dog. Happy for her, dog. Them not happy for her at all, them bad mind, dog. But we're gonna see what I must say again. Me pause video too much, though. Yo, stop question. Me pause video more.
enlightened and wouldn't also be jealous if I were in their shoes. But if one of your relatives marries rich, you better hope they're as generous as Psyche. After treating her sisters to a meal fit for the gods, she gave them all kinds of jewelry, dresses, furs, whatever they wanted, and whatever kept them distracted from asking questions about her husband, who she wasn't allowed to reveal anything about. Once their little reunion ended and the sisters were on their way to their parents, they let their masks drop and spent the whole way there bitching about their lives. My life's a hell. To begin with, I have a husband older than my father. He's balder than an onion as well, and he hasn't the virility of an infant, and he keeps our house barricaded with bars and chains. I have to put up with a husband crippled and bent with rheumatism so that he can succumb to my charms only once in a blue moon. I spent almost all my day rubbing his fingers, which are twisted and hard as flint, and burning these soft hands of mine on reeking poultices, filthy bandages, and smelly plasters. I'm a slaving nursing attendant, not a dutiful wife. The sisters agreed that they weren't going to tell anyone that Psyche was still alive. As a matter of fact, they were going to do everything they could to ruin her life. All because they wanted what she had. A few nights later, Psyche and the sexy
These sisters, them fi stop it, dog. Why them so bad, man?
Shadow, that was her husband, were engaging in some post-coital chit-chat when he warned her yet again that her sisters are up to no good. Well, what he actually says is, those traitorous bitches are straining every nerve to lay wicked traps for you. He has some good news though. Psyche is pregnant, and the oracle told him that if she keeps their secret, their child will be a god. But if not, they'll be born mortal. As you can imagine, Psyche is psyched to hear this, even with that weird ominous asterisk at the end. But she wants to see her sisters one more time before starting their family. Initially, he shuts down the idea, but Psyche is just so damn sweet to him that he can't say no for long.
Allow them alone. Them not like you. Even though them your sister, they don't like you. Leave them alone. Go and go live with your man over one part. Them no want a good feel.
The following week, her sisters visit again, this time not waiting for Zephyrus to pick them up, but instead opting to jump off the mountain and hope for the best. Luckily, the west wind has got some quick reflexes and catches the sisters. Then he gently drops them off on Psyche's doorstep, where their plan officially commences. Speaking of plans, we're only a month into 2026, which means you and I still have time to pursue the goals that we spent all last year procrastinating. And that is where Squarespace comes in. Because having a website is to generate that for your simple base subscription to solo it, but they come to her with bad news. Again, Psyche is hyped to see her sisters, but they come to her with bad news. Her husband is a dragon who plans to get her pregnant and eat their baby.
Oh. Well, that sucks.
Rumors, them are spread. Them just bad mind. I want with the girl of them want our man. Oh no.
How they claim to know this information and why she believes them is kinda bollocks, to be honest with ya. They say that an eyewitness saw the dragon returning to its cave after a hunt. But why that would make the dragon Psyche's husband is beyond me. Maybe it's a translation issue. Regardless, she breaks down and confesses. The reason that she's been dodging questions about her husband and straight up making up lies about him is because he told her that disaster would strike if she revealed anything about him. The sisters see their opening and take it. Putting on concerned faces, they tell her they're taking on a lot of risk by helping her, but she's their sister, so it's their duty to put themselves in danger if it means her safety. Honestly, I think this statement makes the characters even more evil, because clearly they understand what the ideal selfless sibling would do and are deliberately doing the opposite. They manage to convince Psyche that she has to kill her husband tonight, and that they'll be waiting outside to escort her to safety.
Kill? No man, them want kill him, man. Yo, Jaja, them say if oh my god, them say if me can't have him, I have to go kill him. You're not a good youth. Jesus Christ. The man want her, no? The man want her.
After the deed is done. In reality, they bolted home the moment they were dropped off on the mountain. They wanted no part of the fury that was going to rain down on her. That night, after Psyche's husband fell asleep, she quietly grabbed the lantern and knife hidden under her bed. But when she shed light on the monster's face, she couldn't believe what she was seeing. This was no monster at all. It was Cupid, as in the Cupid. And boy was he good looking. She beheld on his golden head his luxuriant hair steeped in ambrosia, his neatly pinned ringlets strayed over his milk-white neck and rosy cheeks. On the winged god's shoulders, his dewy wings gleamed white with flashing brilliance, though
Alright, dog. Alright.
they lay motionless. The soft and fragile feathers at their tips fluttered in quivering motion and sported restlessly. The rest of his body, hairless and rosy, was such that Aphrodite would not have been ashamed to acknowledge him as her son. The very second that Psyche got a clear look at her beloved, she dropped her knife and started Myron, not only Cupid, but his weapons too. But as she ran her finger over his infamous bow and arrows, she pricked her finger, so the love that she felt for him was now multiplied tenfold. Only she's not the only one feeling the heat. Cupid is so smoking hot that the lantern itself can't help but sweat, and out of desire to feel the god's bod, the lantern excreted a single drop of hot oil on his chest. Cupid sprung awake, crying out in pain, but as much as the burn hurt, it was nothing compared to the sting of betrayal. His wife had broken his trust, so without a word, he fled from their bed. Psyche managed to grab a hold of him, and he actually carried her all the way into the clouds before she finally let go and allowed Zephyrus to catch her before she splattered on the ground. But Cupid did have some parting words for his wife before parting. He revealed that their meet cute was more of a meet curse, that he was originally acting on his mother's orders to doom her to marry a monster, but
Okay, so instead of the hunter instead of the hunter in a Snow White, a Cupid. Okay, but the dog I said she look too good and can't just kill her. So no, the dog fall in love. Fell in love. English. Alright.
he accidentally pricked himself with his arrow and had fallen in love with her. That love still burned true, but the betrayal burned worse. So he flew off to cry in a corner somewhere on Olympus while Psyche
Again, me apart it again. Me love a girl and she break my heart. Alright, that's all.
soaked in a puddle of her own tears. And to think that this scenario is exactly what Psyche's sisters wanted. How messed up is that? I'm sorry to say that Psyche is not the only maiden who's been manipulated by her sisters either. Perhaps inspired by Psyche's story, the Italian version of Sleeping Beauty called Little Maria contains an eerily similar event. After Maria's sisters find out that she's living it up in a magic castle, they send her secretly evil gifts like a cake that's been poisoned and a fancy hat that's cursed to petrify her when she puts it on. The similarities go deeper than that though. When you hear the second half of her story, there will be no doubt in your mind that Psyche was the original fairy tale princess. The idea of living without her beloved was unbearable to Psyche, so right after Cupid left, she tried drowning herself in a nearby river. But the
Whoa. Calm down, man. I don't say a Cupid and everything, but that's you should listen to your sister them. Go kill your sister them, not kill yourself. Okay.
river really didn't want to be the guy who killed the god's wife, so he spat her back on the ground. Gently, of course. Now this scene would actually play out pretty funny if it were included in like a movie or a show, because after Psyche is plopped right back on land, she looks to the side and sees the god Pan and nymph Echo just lounging by the river in a playful romantic embrace. And Pan says that he can tell just by looking at Psyche that she's got a case of heartbreak, so she should pray to Cupid for a blessing. Naturally, Psyche didn't want to disrespect the god, so she gave him a nod and went on her way. Where was she off to now, you might ask? Well, that is my favorite answer of all. To get revenge. Psyche sailed on over to her sister's house and told her what happened with her husband. She revealed that he's the god Cupid, and now that Psyche's betrayed his trust, he's dumped her and wants her sister. This was a dream come true for the traitorous bitch, so she didn't ask any more questions. She made up some garbage excuse to her husband and then sailed back home. Then she basically beelined it for the mountaintop and jumped off the cliff, ready for Zephyrus to catch her in his arms. Only Zephyrus wasn't there. So instead of landing on a bed of flowers, her body bounced off the sharp rocks below, breaking her limbs and painting the mountainside with her guts, which the animals soon showed up to devour. And before you get on my case about gratuitous gore, just know that all of those details are in the original text. Satisfied with how that played out, Psyche pulled the exact same hustle on her other sister, who suffered the same fate. And you know, something I just realized is that in most princess fairy tales, it is rarely the princess who punishes the villain. It's always a third party. Like Cinderella's sisters had their eyes pecked out by birds, Snow White's husband ordered his guards to strap the iron shoes to the queen, etc. I wonder when people decided that it wasn't proper for the heroine to get her hands dirty. Anyway, we actually have more connections with Sleeping Beauty, because a little bird, which must have been a pigeon because this thing is a rat with wings, tells Aphrodite that Cupid is having an affair, and Aphrodite takes on the evil mother-in-law role. See,
Oh no. Cupid, I say it say dog. Dog. I mean, there I say you're cool. Never know a lure at all. You have woman dog? Jesus Christ. Alright.
most versions of the Sleeping Beauty story are split into two acts. In the first act, the villain is the evil fairy who puts the sleeping spell on the princess.
But wait, me guess I can't like give him a break. Cause him whole thing I love dog. Man just love everybody. I don't know if him love everybody, but he just love everybody dog. She have to understand.
But she's out of the story after that. In the second act, after the princess is woken up by the prince's mother finds out about his secret girlfriend, and to punish him, she either tries to eat their children or burn her at the stake.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Aphrodite is not quite that bad, but she does enlist Hera and Demeter to help her find the princess, and they have a great response. Instead of helping, they tell her that her son has to be allowed to grow up sometime, and that as the goddess of love, it's kinda weird that she won't allow love in her own house. Apparently the gods were all afraid of Cupid's arrows, so no one was willing to go against him. That doesn't mean the goddesses would help Psyche either, though. The princess actually visited both of their temples to ask for help, but they shut her down. Demeter actually goes so far as to threaten Psyche with imprisonment, but Hera is the patron goddess of pregnant women and offered some advice. She told Psyche that her best bet was to just meet Aphrodite face to face and grovel at her feet for forgiveness. Running away is just delaying the inevitable. Meanwhile, Aphrodite reached out to Hermes and told him to make an announcement that anyone who can bring her Psyche will be blessed with 7 kisses and 1 with tongue. Again, that's actually what the text says. I'm not bullshitting you, okay? I wouldn't do that. I'm not Minos. When Psyche got word about this announcement, it became clear that she had to turn herself in to the goddess. So she did, and promptly had the shit kicked out of her by Aphrodite's attendants. Then the goddess threatened to if you've ever been in love, then
Whoa, I pressed the wrong button. Oh shit. Where was I? Not there.
the sharp rocks.
Not
I wonder when people
Not there.
and to punish him
Not
were
there.
all the feet for forgiveness.
Gosh.
Running away is just 1 with tongue.
All right.
Again, that's actually what the text says. I'm not bullshitting you, okay? I wouldn't do that. I'm not Minos. When Psyche got word about this announcement, it became clear that she had to turn herself in to the goddess. So
Yeah.
she did, and promptly had the shit kicked out of her by Aphrodite.
A gang thing. Aphrodite, a gang leader. That's all.
Attendants. Then the goddess threatened to kill her unborn baby if Psyche didn't complete some humiliating tasks. Aphrodite had large sacks of wheat, barley, millet, poppy seeds, chickpeas, lentils, and beans poured.
No, dog. Why she care? No, her son. Dog. Until them mother were just in them son life. Like, why she care, dog? Probably only reason probably because she break Cupid's heart. But why she just in her son life? They must have the quote unquote married. A born Cupid did again. According to his story, I don't know.
into a pile and told Psyche to separate them before she gets back from a wedding party that night. The goddess knew this was going to be impossible, that was the whole point, but what she didn't expect was some nearby ants to take pity on Psyche and do all the sorting for her. You can imagine the look on Aphrodite's face when she came home and saw 7 perfect piles. It was probably the same look that Cinderella's stepmother had when the birds helped her accomplish the same feat in the Grimm brothers story, or the one Baba Yaga had after some mice helped Vasilisa. No matter, Aphrodite had thought up a new task by morning. Psyche was to gather some golden wool off some nearby sheep that were grazing. Sounds easy enough, but Psyche would rather jump off a cliff. Only before she can, the cliff speaks up and tells her how to get the wool safely. If she waits until the afternoon when the sheep aren't riled up from the heat, she won't have to worry about being impaled by their horns or bit by their poisonous teeth. They'll move on to graze elsewhere and she can pick their wool off the nearby trees. So that's exactly what she does. Then Aphrodite assigns another new labor. Before I get to that though, you might be wondering where Cupid has been this whole time. What's he up to while his mom beats up his wife? Get this, the dude is actually in his bedroom in Aphrodite's palace recovering from his burn. He and Psyche are sleeping in the same house and don't even know it. He's also suffered the wrath of his mother, who at this point has technically stripped him of his title and weapons, claiming she was going to give them to a slave because she would trust them over her own son. Spoiler alert, this punishment doesn't stick. Psyche's third labor required her to fetch a pail of water from a precarious mountaintop, one with falling rocks, poisonous snakes, I think quicksand might have been mentioned, some real Saturday morning cartoon shit. Before she could though, her path was cut off by Zeus's eagle, who respected Cupid and wanted to help his wife by filling the pail for her.
Dog. Me miss some. Them they married. I just don't know where they were back in the days. But me I continue.
Aphrodite had one last fail-safe labor though. She ordered Psyche to fetch a dose of Persephone's beauty for her to get ready for the deity's theater. So, like, makeup? But Psyche could read between the lines. She knew that the only way for her to get to the underworld would be if she died. So she heads to the top of a palace tower and prepares to throw herself off. This time the tower chimes in, because apparently all inanimate objects are animate in this story. And he tells Psyche that she can find the entrance to Hades on the border of Sparta. Then he gives her a list of gear that she should take for the obstacles that she's sure to encounter. Now Psyche's journey is kind of a whole story itself, and we've already been here a while, so I'm just gonna give you the abridged version. Psyche reaches the shores of the river Styx and pays Charon to ferry her across. Then she uses barley cakes to bribe Cerberus. If you've ever been in love, then you'd probably agree that that experience changed you, hopefully for the better.
Yo.
Here a while, so I'm just gonna give you the abridged version. Psyche reaches the shores.
Me just said, me know that money from Percy Jackson. Me know that money from Percy Jackson, dog. The name Chiron. Chiron him say? Oh, wait.
Of the river Styx and pays Charon to ferry her across. Then she uses barley cakes to bribe Cerberus to let her pass. She has to avoid some hazards, like old ladies spinning flax and dead souls asking her to let them in the boat, and ultimately makes it to Persephone, who gives her the box of beauty. It was on her way to the surface that Psyche made her second biggest mistake in the story. She arrogantly thought it would be silly for her to not use a single drop of the beauty on herself to tempt Cupid back to her. But when she opened the box, she was met with a nasty surprise. Inside was not beauty, but the sleep of Hades. A thick cloud of smoke erupted from the box, filled her lungs, seized her limbs, and rendered her unconscious.
It's a setup.
Meanwhile, back at the palace, Cupid had finally healed both emotionally and physically, and he wanted to see Psyche again. So he tracked her down and extracted the sleep from her lungs, saving her life. Then he told her to deliver the box to his mom, and he would take care of the rest. Now this is one of my favorite endings to any myth ever. Cupid flies on over to Zeus and asks him to get his mom to just let him and Psyche be in love. Zeus makes a point to remind Cupid about all the shenanigans he's pulled.
Dog, why is Zeus up in him one face, so dog? Zeus I like him uncle. Why I'm up in him one face, so? Tell you about him uncle there.
Over the years, but he wants the best for his son, nephew, cousin. And he thinks the shackles of marriage might force him to mature a little bit. Then he decrees to all of Olympus, look, I know Cupid has been a menace to all of us, but marrying a respectable woman is gonna do him some good. She's gonna teach him what it means to be a man and a husband. And Aphrodite, you're just gonna have to get over it. Then Zeus ordered his official messenger, Hermes, to deliver Psyche to Olympus, where he personally gave her a cup of ambrosia and blessed her with immortality. From this point onward, she wouldn't be Psyche the princess, but rather Psyche, the goddess of the soul. But her happy ending isn't over yet. Zeus also hosted their wedding, with the gods lending their talents to make it a spectacular affair. Hephaestus prepared the dinner, the seasons brightened the scene with flowers, and Apollo sang on the lyre. By day's end, Cupid and Psyche were bound to each other by divine law, their love blessed by Zeus to burn eternal. And a few months later, their daughter was born, Hedone, the goddess of happiness and sexual pleasure. Not exactly what I'd want my daughter to be the goddess of, but Cupid has probably got a different set of core values than I do. Like, he'd probably be proud if his daughter grew up to be the Hawktua girl. I'm getting distracted though. When I talk about Psyche's happy ending, it's reasonable to assume I'm referring to her marrying a hot god and becoming an immortal. But her immortality goes beyond.
From she reached that mansion, dog, he did up, dog. She did up yesterday, dog. And then her bad mind sister them make she burn her man physically, not cheat. And then I discuss all this, dog. That's if it does. Listen, alright. Don't listen to your man if I tell you foolish, but your sister them bad mind, dog. Our sister them bad mind. That's all I'm trying to say. Our bad mind sister them cause all of this.
Beyond being a goddess, her legacy has lived on in many of the most well-known and beloved fairy tales about princesses across the world. She was the template that almost every fairy tale princess after her would copy, whether they knew it or not. Like Psyche, they showed the resiliency by enduring impossible chores, jealous sisters, cruel mother figures, forbidden curiosity, and punishments that feel wildly disproportionate to their mistakes. When you take away all the mystical elements, myths and fairy tales are really just reflections of the human experience, and Psyche is
That deep.
no exception. She didn't become the goddess of the soul because she transcended humanity. She's the goddess of the soul because she represents it.
Alright. Yeah, man, that did come. So the moral of the story is sometimes them get just bad mind, dog. They just bad mind. So don't leave your man for them girl here, cause them bad mind. I'm gonna say it one more time. When I say girl, I don't mean that's disrespect. So I'm gonna keep on saying it. Alright. That's it. Oh, and subscribe.